Hey, what's up guys? Matt Sturtevant with Jaeger Productions. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important things you can do to prepare for the hunting season. Now typically this is done in January or February where most serious guys are already thinking about the next season. But it's already May 6th, so it's a little bit late. I didn't get a jump start like everyone else. I had some other things, some commitments that I had to take care of. So here we are, May 6th, and I'm getting ready for the hunting season finally. But yeah, one of the most important things you can think about in terms of hunting is your arrows. The size, the strength, the spine, the vanes you're going to use, the field point for a practice arrow, or the broadhead that you're going to use, and the material it's made out of, and the length. All these things need to be thought about when you're talking about archery and making sure your bow is as accurate as possible. Because I'm getting a jump start, I just built my arrows today, and you're seeing the final product right here. This is the last arrow I had to build. Some things that I had to take into consideration were A, my draw length, and that determined how long to cut this arrow. B, the weight that I'm pulling, which is 70 pounds. My bow is set to 70 pounds. It's right behind me there. And that meant that the arrow had to be spined correctly, and that's really the flex in the arrow. Now this is a Maxima Hunter 450, but that number on most arrows, Eastons, Beemans, so on and so forth, is the inches that the arrow actually flexes. A 340, for instance, on an Easton would be a 0.34 inch flex. Carbon Express does the opposite. 450 is actually the stiffest arrow rather than the most flexible. So 450 has the least amount of flex, whereas in an Easton the smaller number denotes less flex. But because I'm drawing a 70-pound bow at 29.5 inch draw, I need a really strong, stiff arrow, and this is a 450, the strongest arrow or stiffest arrow I've ever used. But that was the first thing to determine. The second thing is because I have a 29-inch draw length, I needed to have a really long arrow. Now, a lot of guys, the pro shops that I've talked to, that you'll do the same with, will be able to set you up on a bit of software that they use that will determine the length, the optimum length, and the optimum spine, and they will even have the brands and the models in there to determine with the weight of the tip that you're going to use. I use a 100 grain tip, 29-inch draw, 70 pounds. And I wanted the Carbon Express Maxima Hunters as an arrow. I really like them. I've been very happy with them. I didn't use them last year, and I regretted it. And they'll run that through the software, and they'll tell you what's the optimum length. So that's how I got my 29-inch arrow. After that, it was really up to determining what kind of vanes I wanted to use. After talking with a lot of guys, I've used last year. This is my arrow from last year. I had a 4-inch vane. I liked it. The arrow far more flexible, but I decided to do something shorter, a little bit faster. These are great. Guys will tell you that they're more accurate, but they do present a larger target in the air when they're moving towards that animal, which means they're more affected by the wind or crosswind. And I didn't want to deal with that, so I went with a 2-inch vane instead. I have bright colors so I don't lose them in the grass. I have a tendency to lose things in the grass. And at $12 a stick, you don't want to do that when we're just going out to practice. So yeah, after you do that, after you determine all that stuff, you cut your arrows, set the insert in that arrow, which is what the tip screws into, what your field point or broadhead will screw into. And then you can set up a jig like I've got here to put your vanes in. Now, you can buy arrows that already have vanes on them. That's not an issue, and they're very well done. I like to be more involved and make sure that everything is exactly the way I want it. And a lot of people will tell you that's the only way to go with archery because there's so many factors that can be influenced. So yeah, so all I had to do was I would just set a vane into my clamp. This is a right helical clamp. You can get a left helical. You can get right straight and left straight, or just a standard straight clamp and adjust it. put it on the vise like that, with a bead of glue on that vein, sit and wait, and what you're seeing here is the finished product. Now, I don't have a field point on this because this is my hunting arrow. What I did after I had all my veins put on was I spun them just like this to determine which were the straightest arrows. And I got my 6 straightest arrows. I set them aside. They're for hunting. The other ones that had just a tiny bit of wobble in them, those will be my practice arrows. And now I know which is better. Now, a concept I haven't talked about yet is forward or front of center, FOC. Typically, you want like 9 to 16% FOC. And what that means is every arrow has a balance point, okay? And due to the weight of the vanes and the position of the vanes and the weight of your broadhead or field point, it's going to balance at a certain point forward of the actual physical center of that arrow. That's your FOC. You typically want that 9 to 16% forward of the center, the physical center of that arrow. For hunting, it's really important to get into that range, and I'm right at about 8-9%, so I'm perfect. I measured it, and it's actually 8.3%, and that's fine. I'm really happy with that. All my arrows that I've fletched this year are at that point. And the reason you want that FOC is you want more weight towards the front, and that's a measure of how much more or what the difference is in length between the center point and the midpoint. That's what the percentage is, and that tells you how far forward the weight is on your arrow. You have to, for any projectile, missile, rocket, arrow, spear, whatever it is, it needs to be heavy in the front. How much is a question, is a science really. It can't be too much and it can't be too little. So for a hunting arrow, 9 to 16%, or 8 to 16% is really where you want to be, and I'm right in there at 8.3%. After that, you spin test all your arrows, you determine which is the best arrow, and you're good to go. And like I said, I've got all my arrows set up now for this year to shoot. I got my practice arrows ready to go, and the next time you see me, I'll be practicing at the range, and we'll be re-sighting in my bow because I've changed the flex of the arrow, I've changed the vanes. It's going to shoot a little bit different, and you'll see that reflected on the target when I go out there to practice and really sight it in. This is Matt Sturtevant with Wild Jaeger Productions, and this is the start of the season, and we're just getting warmed up. This is exciting. Build your own arrows and get things going. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye.